To minimize background noise, the host has muted all participants. We ask that everyone remain muted during this hearing. There will be an opportunity to provide oral testimony at the time, and at that time, we will unmute participants one at a time for those that we have indicated that they would like to provide testimony. If you have joined online and would like to provide oral testimony, please enter your full name and affiliation in the chat box that is located in the Zoom control panel at the bottom of your computer screen or at the top of right corner of the mobile device. Then click the chat icon and then you can enter your information. If you're having trouble finding the chat box on the computer, try clicking the triangle to the left of the word chat to expand the bar. If you are on the phone, we will unmute callers one at a time to ask for this information and provide an opportunity for testimony. If you are facing technical difficulties, please alert us through the chat function. And we do ask that please you do not enter a testimony in the chat function. Now we will begin the hearing. This is a public hearing for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection. My name is Maria Pinot, Director for the Division of Municipal Services, and I am the hearing officer on this matter. Gregory Devine and Robin McNamara of my staff will be assisting me today with the Zoom logistics, and we are recording this hearing. We are here today at 10:02 a.m. on Wednesday, January 31st, 2024, on a virtual public hearing to accept testimony concerning the 2024 draft intended use plans for the Clean Water and the Drinking Water State Revolving Funds. The draft intended use plan lists by priority ranking those projects that MassDEP is recommending for financing because it believes that those projects are the most significant in terms of public and environmental health. Please note that MassDEP will not be responding to the testimony today. MassDEP will take into consideration all the testimony received during the public comment period before finalizing the intended use plans. If you wish to provide written testimony prior to the end of the public comment period, it closes today at 5 p.m. Please send your written testimony by email to my attention at maria.pinot@mass.gov. On December 27, 2023, MassDEP published the draft intended use plans and provided notice of their availability and solicited comment relative to MassDEP's recommendation of the use of state revolving funds. In compliance with Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 38, the public hearing notice was published on MassDEP's website and also on the Boston Globe. In a moment, we will begin to unmute participants who have identified themselves as wishing to provide oral testimony. We will prompt one by one the phone participants to identify those who wish to testify, and we'll ask them to present their oral testimony. Please do speak clearly and distinctly. I will now open the oral testimony. Robin?
Good morning. I'd like to call on Senator Comerford if you'd like to comment.
Thank you so much. I'm very grateful for the opportunity to join you today and so grateful for this hearing. Thank you so much to the Department of Environmental Protection for including so many critical projects from the Hampshire-Franklin-Worcester Senate District in the draft intended use plans for both the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund and the Clean Water State Revolving Fund. I am, as I believe DEP knows, really grateful for the role that the state revolving funds play for our municipalities in my Senate district through supporting everything from asset management, GIS mapping, and capital planning, funding infrastructure improvements, and enabling communities to build resilient systems that will provide Massachusetts constituents with a supply of clean drinking water and support public health and community growth and development well into the future. As you know, I know you know, Chair, that many of the communities in my district with projects in the draft 2024 intended use plan are rural towns with small tax bases, aging infrastructure, and large geographical areas. The significance for these communities of the investment from the state revolving fund cannot be overstated. 14 projects from 8 communities in the Hampshire Franklin Worcester district are included in the draft, the 2024 SRF intended use plans. Thank you for their inclusion. I won't name them all in great detail. We're submitting detailed written comments, but the projects included in the Clean Water State Revolving Fund draft intended use plan that I'm speaking to today and will submit testimony on today, include those in Athol, Deerfield, Hatfield, Montague, and Orange. These projects will provide communities with direction through asset management, capital planning, training for personnel, and generally provide the tools to bring communities' infrastructure into the 21st century and beyond, as I mentioned. And the projects included in the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund draft intended use plan include those in Amherst, Deerfield, Hadley, Hatfield, Northampton, and Orange. These are projects to upgrade water treatment facilities, increase communities' water capacity, and build the resilience of communities' public water systems through dam rehabilitation. Again, my colleagues and I in our state Senate district are very grateful for the Department of Environmental Protection's partnership with municipalities to meet these really pressing needs in Western and North Central Massachusetts communities. We've long relied on smart state support, like the work you're doing today. Thank you so much for your time and your consideration. And again, I'll submit detailed written comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. I'd now like to call on Joan Pease.
Thank you, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak at this very important public hearing. My name is Joan Pease, and I live at 11 Wintergreen Court in Lunenburg, Massachusetts. And I am focusing my remarks on an application by the Lunenburg Water District to receive $14.9 million for the Hickory Hills well. My remarks are directed at the application for $14.9 million from the Lunenburg Water District for a filtration plant at the Hickory Hills well. 1. The Hickory Hills well has not been employed by the Lunenburg Water District as a drinking water source since May 6, 2012. I have submitted it with my written remarks, the actual pumping report for the Lunenburg Water District Hickory Hills well. This report clearly shows that the Hickory Hills has been inactive for almost 14 years. The Lunenburg Water District's application for the Hickory Hills well is not based on a need for an active primary water source. 2, it is important to understand the sequence of events which precipitated the Lunenburg Water District's application for the SRF funds that we are discussing today. The Lunenburg Water District was not discussing restarting the Hickory Hills well, nor the need to restart it. They were not discussing searching for funds to restart this well. The Lunenburg Water District does not have a shortage of water from its active wells. By listening to the videotapes of the Lunenburg Water District's bi-weekly commissioner meetings, it is clear that a different thought process occurred. The Lunenburg Water District employees and commissioners discussed the fact that there was free money available. So they should apply for it, and then they could use it to restart the inactive Hickory Hills well because they might as well make use of some resource that they own. Need was not the driving force. Perceived free money was. In addition, the Lunenburg Water District has made it clear that even if they do receive SRF funds for this particular well, the Hickory Hills well will only be used as a backup well for a portion of the year. At the April 13th, 2022 Lunenburg Water District meeting, Chair Mark Birch clearly states that the Lunenburg Water District will develop a policy to not pump the Hickory Hills well for several months of the year, specifically from April 1st to September 31st, due to environmental concerns that pumping this well may have a negative impact on a neighboring lake. I have supplied you in my written testimony with the link to that water district meeting, and you can hear at the 1 hour mark what I've just told you. 3, the information discussed in points 1 and 2 clearly indicate that the Lunenburg Water District application for $14.9 million for a treatment plant at a backup well that will only be used a portion of the year and has been inactive for 14 years do not meet the criteria stated in your application process. As a federal, state, and town taxpayer, I take exception to any organization attempting to use money supplied for need programs to simply make use of resources they own, but do not have the funds to upgrade. The SRF funds are not free money for unnecessary upgrades. The SRF funds come from the pockets of taxpayers, and their distribution should and must be done with the utmost integrity and scrupulous adherence to the actual criteria the generous funds were earmarked for. Lastly, it is my understanding that the purpose of today's public hearing is to hear testimony on the applications before your department for eligibility to receive SRF funding. However, in the minutes of the December 27th, 2023 Lunenburg Water District meeting, the Lunenburg Water District Superintendent, Fran McNamara, clearly states that he has received notification from you by email that the Lunenburg Water District application for $14.9 million SRF funds for the Hickory Hills well has already been approved. And I have submitted to you the link to the minutes of that meeting so you can read it yourself. In that statement, he also says that this is a zero interest loan over 20 or 30 years with massive principal forgiveness. It appears that a decision has already been made to allocate funds before the testimony given today. Is the DEP municipal department just going through the motions of a public hearing? The taxpayers who are the original source of these funds deserve better. The criteria of need for a primary public water, drinking water source must be scrupulously met before any funds are distributed. There are numerous concerns about the eligibility of the Lunenburg Water District's Hickory Hills Well proposed project that need to be ironed out before any monies are distributed to it. I have also signed the letter being read into the testimony today by Andy Sarvasky, and that letter outlines additional concerns about the lack of readiness in the Lunenburg Water District for this project. I urge the Department of Municipal Services to listen to the links I've provided, read the minutes I've provided, examine the pumping report. And after doing that, I hope they will come to the same conclusion that many of us have, that at this point in time, the Lunenburg Water District is not eligible for SRF funds for drinking water at the Hickory Hills well. Maybe other wells, not the Hickory Hills well. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you for your comment. The next person is Ward Mulford.
Okay. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you for this opportunity to provide testimony today on behalf of Pine Valley Plantation in Belchertown, Massachusetts, a community of approximately 388 homes, who for the past 2 years we have put in an application for necessary funding for upgrades and repairs to our water delivery system here for a significant population of senior citizens. We are applying for the state revolving funds for approximately $6 million. I am not representing the leadership of Pine Valley Plantation. I am a resident here. Pine Valley Plantation is receiving a letter of endorsement for our infrastructure repairs from various state representatives and DEP authorities. Number two, Pine Valley Plantation has significant creditworthiness as demonstrated by an extensive sewer installation project in the past with a 20-year loan paid in full without any issues. A continuous stream of income from residents to meet our financial obligations. A consistent yearly balanced budget with backup accounts fully funded as required. A long history of maintaining sales and ownership of 388 residences, and no history of default in any of our financial obligations. Number three, a critical need for water infrastructure repairs and upgrades exists now and has been problematic for multiple years, resulting in increased risk of system failure, increased risk of water delivery interruptions, increased risk of water supply contamination, and increased risk of escalating costs to repair due to current nationwide economic situations. Pine Valley Plantation has achieved development and maintenance of successful water treatment processes, which are monitored and approved by the DEP. However, the underground infrastructure is progressively heading towards failure. Number five, civil defense initiatives at Pine Valley Plantation have included awareness that FEMA, MEMA, and other civil defense initiatives in small communities like ours highlight the fact that water delivery and supply are number one in achieving emergency preparedness. As chairman of the civil defense team and a resident here at Pine Valley Plantation, I'm also a registered nurse with 49 years of experience in community health issues. Our failing infrastructure will definitely affect the health and wellness of a significant number of senior citizens who reside here and depend on adequate systems for health maintenance and preventive measures to control injury and illness. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our next commenter will be Andrew Stavasky.
Good morning. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak this morning. This is very important to myself and to my community. So Ms. Panad and other members of the SRF committee, once again, my name is Andrew Stavasky. I am a resident of Lunenburg, Massachusetts. I, along with many other Lunenburg citizens, have written to you and we're online today to express our concerns over the IUP for the Hickory Hills Water Filtration Plant. This is ID number 16845. First, it's important to note that the town of Lunenburg does not have any clean drinking water capacity issues. There are 5 operational wells that are at 2 different sites, and they provide an abundance of safe, clean drinking water to our small community of less than 12,000 residents. In fact, in a prior year, the Lunenburg Water District petitioned the residents to authorize selling the excess capacity to nearby towns. However, the voters defeated that request, and all of the surplus water is now available to the water users in Lunenburg. The Lunenburg Water District has excess capacity. The Hickory Hills wells that we're talking about, this is located at the Hickory Hills Lake. It's not a priority drinking water source. It is not. It's a shut-in well, which has been inactive since 2012. It was operational for only 6 years before it was shut down to excessive iron and manganese levels. Now, preliminary testing indicates this well also contains PFAS levels that are well above the current Mass and EPA thresholds. A PFAS testing pilot program has only recently begun at the Hickory Hills well and is not yet complete. It's not complete. Therefore, the Lunenburg Water District's proposed $14.9 million IUP is not for a priority drinking water source. This inactive well, it's on private property. It's in a residential community on the shoreline of Massachusetts' largest private lake. The well easement area includes the lake shoreline and protected wetlands, which drain into the lake. Because of significant environmental concerns, Before any treatment plant could even be constructed, the Lunenburg Water District would need to apply to the Lunenburg Conservation Commission and adhere to the safeguards in the Massachusetts Wetland Act. There are additional hurdles to readiness to start this project that stem from the fact that Lunenburg Water District does not own the property where this proposed treatment plant is slated to be built. The Lunenburg Water District has an easement which has granted for the well in 1993. There are legal questions that exist about whether a treatment plant can be built on this easement. A judicial ruling will need to be obtained before any treatment plant could be constructed or could even begin. Judicial clarification has the possibility of delaying construction for a considerable amount of time. Even if these impediments to beginning construction can be overcome, the Water District has stated publicly that they will only use this well as a backup water source for a portion of every year. Thus, any funds allocated to the Water District for a treatment facility at this site would not be directed to a standard primary drinking water supply, but to a secondary backup source. The criteria for eligibility for SRF funds clearly states that the funds must be used on primary water sources. According to the stated criteria, this project doesn't qualify. Now, prior to pursuing any PFAS treatment facility, the Lunenburg Water District committed to conducting a year-long PFAS pilot study. On October 19th, 2022, the Lunenburg Water Takers voted to appropriate $360,000 to conduct this pilot study. At the time that this IUP was submitted, that PFAS pilot had not even been started, nor was any data collected. In fact, as of today, January 31st, 2024, that PFAS pilot study has only been in operation for less than 60 days. So in summary, we feel the Lunenburg Water District is not ready to proceed. They haven't completed that PFAS pilot study. They don't have a full understanding of the scope of this project, and its impact is still under evaluation. The Water District must resolve the issues with the owners on the property, as well as the MassDEP Department of Environmental Protection and the Lunenburg Conservation Commission before any work could begin. Their legal and environmental concerns must be addressed also. The Hickory Hills well is not a priority primary drinking water source. The Lunenburg Water District has stated this well will be used only as a backup water source and only for a portion of the year, not on a regular basis. The well is a secondary backup water source and is not planned for regular use. Now, Ms. Panad, this letter I just read was signed by 166 other concerned Lunenburg Water District users. This is an extremely important concern to us. We're asking you that you please take this into consideration before making your decision. And it's important that we let you know Lunenburg isn't against clean drinking water. It's just this well. And in fact, just recently, the town committee approved several $100,000 to the Water District to start a pilot study at the other operational sites. That's where we want the money to go, not here. So once again, thank you for your time. I appreciate it very, very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll hear from Nicole Dewberry.
Hi, my name is Nicole Dewberry and I work for the Three Rivers Fire District. I thought I'd begin with some background. We applied for and received the SRF during the 2022 application year. Due to delays in engineering, well past the deadline, that I explained more thoroughly as part of my written testimony. The Prudential Committee to which I report eventually came to the decision to stop the SRF process at that time. We used the time to regroup, and then we applied again during the 2024 application year. However, our application this time was unsuccessful. In trying to sort out what had happened, I was given the project evaluation score reports for both application years. And I must first apologize because if I had thought to inquire further about the scoring from the 2022 application year earlier, then this would have helped to further improve my consistency between the two applications. So while the written portion is, oh, I'm sorry about the phone. While the written portion is consistent, I think some of the answers to the questions might have varied over the 2 years. So I'm not sure if my former supervisor received this report, or maybe it just isn't part of the routine process to distribute this report to applicants. But I do, apologize. I wish I had thought to ask for something such as this earlier on. Now that I'm considering and comparing the 2022 year and the 2024 years for the project evaluation score reports, I thought it best, with one exception that I'll cover in a minute, to solely compare the DEP scores between the two application years rather than to consider the DEP score versus the consultant score. And in doing so, a few things stood out. So regarding these following questions, I thought I'd emphasize a couple of things. The questions are: 4A, does the project consolidate or restructure a PWS to eliminate a public health problem or a capacity development problem? And then 5A, is the project needed to ensure compliance with a federal or state court or administrative order as of the PEF submittal date? The second question seems to be the greatest difference between the two forms, where we received 20 points from DEP in 2022 and 0 points from DEP in 2024. And regarding both of these questions, since they're related in some ways, I'd argue a couple of points. First, this project would eliminate the exposure of drinking water to the lead paint within the drinking water storage tanks that is currently peeling and flaking off, with pitting beneath that. Second, a few years ago, the system did not add sodium hypochlorite, which is a form of chlorine, as part of the treatment process. And the hope is that following this tank restoration project, which would include the installation of mixing systems in the tanks, we may be able to eliminate the need for disinfection solely as a preventative measure, since the raw water at the wells or the source consistently tests negative for bacteria. Because disinfection has not been necessary during nearly all of the history of this water system, the proposed modifications to the distribution system, as outlined in this project, could help us to eliminate that need again, and would also eliminate exposure to chlorine disinfection byproducts. There was a boil water order, a coliform bacteria level 2 assessment, and then finally, as I mentioned, the permanent installation of the sodium hypochlorite or chlorine chemical injection system. Also of note, in considering the total overall scores from both years, my coworker brought it to my attention that my consultant score from the 2024 year does not exceed the DEP score from the 2022 year. And also the difference between DEP's overall scores in 2022 and 2024 is significant at 120 points. Finally, I noticed that several projects approved are continuations from previous years. And while we left the SRF process due to delays in engineering aspect of the project, I ask that you reconsider our application not as something that is completely new, but as something that was paused and maybe resumed again. We're ready to move forward with a new engineering firm. Not only did I form a positive impression of this new firm when I met the engineer who served as the instructor of a course that I took for credits toward my licenses, but I also followed up on the references that they provided. While the references did warn me away from the quality of work of a particular contractor who may submit a bid on the project, all references from other water departments spoke positively of this engineering firm in regards to tank projects specifically, and they spoke positively of all employees with whom they worked. There were other less significant aspects of between the two that could be considered, but in the interest of time, I'll leave it as those main points here. But please do let me know if there are any follow-up questions, and I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Next, we'll hear from Philip Gerwin.
Good morning. Thank you, Robin, and thank you, Maria. Thank you for the opportunity to testify this morning. My name is Phil Guerin. I'm a water commissioner for the town of West Brookfield, and I'm here to ask for a reconsideration of the rating given to the West Brookfield Leland Road Pump Station Upgrade Project, which is SRF ID number 16838. That project, which is an iron and manganese treatment facility for an existing active well field in town, was given a rating of 308 in the draft IUP, and that's well below the minimum approved project score of 444. We're a little bit puzzled by that low rating, given the project is something that has been ordered by MassDEP. In the 2020 sanitary survey that MassDEP performed on the West Brookfield water system, they noted increasing iron and manganese concentrations at the Leland Road wells. And in the corrective action requirements under that sanitary survey, they told the town that they had to design and build a water treatment plant. For a variety of reasons, including a lack of funding, nothing happened with that project. And in the 2022 sanitary survey DEP performed, they upgraded that deficiency to a violation and a notice of noncompliance. And again, have ordered the town to design and build a iron and manganese treatment facility for Leland Road. Now that design is underway, and we have a engineering firm working on that now, and it's on schedule to be completed by the fall of this year. We are puzzled that with DEP ordering us to build a facility, why it was scored so low, when DEP seems to be indicating it is a public health water quality matter and not simply an aesthetic issue. I will mention that West Brookfield is a small community water system. We have 1,000 customers. This project has a price tag of $6.24 million. If we were to get a very favorable loan, even at 2% interest, the debt service on that project, if it was fully funded by town ratepayers, would increase our water department budget by 83%. That seems to be very problematic for our town and not a very realistic outlook. So we are asking that the project be reconsidered, re-rated, looking at it in the eyes of it being a public health issue, and hopefully can get us above the minimum threshold. Again, we are a small system, and we just simply don't have the resources to spread $6 million across 1,000 customers. I have provided written testimony previously on this, which provides more detail, but I do appreciate you hearing me this morning, and look forward to seeing a higher scored project for West Brookfield. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person will be Carl Strathmeyer.
Thank you, Ms. McNamara. My name is Carl Strathmeyer. I live at 39 Valley Road in Lunenburg. I'm also a resident of the Lunenburg Water District. And like several of the previous speakers, I am here to speak about the proposed water filtration plant for the Lunenburg Hickory Hills well. In short, it's my opinion that the proposed filtration plant for Hickory Hills would not be an appropriate use of state funds, simply because that well's location will keep it from ever serving as a reliable source of safe drinking water. Let me explain. The most important safety issue here, in my opinion, is the absence of an adequate Zone 1 water supply protection area around the wellhead. Previous speakers have mentioned that this well is sited on an easement on land that's owned by the Woodlands Realty, the Woodlands Condominium Association. The easement gave the Lunenburg Water District permission to drill a water supply well on the shorefront parcel on the shore of Hickory Hills Lake in Lunenburg. I've cited the Registry of Deeds registration information for that easement in my written comments. The well was drilled, as others have mentioned, in 1994, but has been offline for many years due to water quality issues. Now, about the Zone 1 protection area, Massachusetts general laws, the citation is 310 CMR 20.22. That law requires every public water supplier to own or otherwise control a 400-foot radius, called the Zone 1 area, around each of its public wells. And to ensure the safety of the water supply from that well, all uses and activities are prohibited in that Zone 1 area, except those specifically necessary to operate the public water supply. Now, in the case of the Hickory Hills well, the 1993 easement provides much less than the 400-foot required zone. The rest of that 400-foot radius lies on the land of several private property owners, including the Woodlands Condominium Association, as well as a significant area of Hickory Hills Lake itself, which is owned by Hickory Hills Landowners, Inc. Now let's talk about each one of those areas of land around the well. The land owned by the Woodlands Condominium Association has many activities that are not compatible with a public well, including the application of fertilizer, other landscaping chemicals, as well as the use of de-icing chemicals on sidewalks and roadways. All of these activities are clearly prohibited in a Zone 1 area by 310 CMR 20.22. However, the Lunenburg Water District cannot enforce the Zone 1 restrictions on that land because it neither owns nor controls that property. Okay, onto the Hickory Hills Lake itself. It is heavily used for recreational boating with all the accompanying risks of fuel and oil spills. Hickory Hills Landowners, Inc. manages the water quality in that lake according to lake management plans filed with and approved by the Lunenburg Conservation Commission. In recent years, these management activities have included treating the entire lake with herbicide to control invasive weeds, hand pulling, suction harvesting by divers to remove individual invasive weeds, applying alum to areas of the lake to control phosphorus, and applying copper sulfate to other areas of the lake to control toxic cyanobacteria. All of these activities are clearly prohibited in a Zone 1 protection area by that same regulation, Mass General Laws 310 CMR 20.22. Hickory Hills Lake is not a public water body. Hickory Hills Landowners, Inc. owns the entire lake based upon a deed from Hickory Hills Corporation dated September 6, 1979. And again, I've cited reference to the deed in my written testimony. The Lunenburg Water District cannot enforce Zone 1 restrictions upon that lake because it neither owns nor controls that property. Finally, third, the 400-foot Zone 1 protection area also intrudes onto a residential property at 54 Pine Acres Road in Lunenburg. That's on the far shore of the lake opposite the wellhead. There are undoubtedly many activities on that property that are clearly prohibited also by that same regulation. But like the other properties already mentioned, the Lunenburg Water District cannot enforce Zone 1 restrictions there because it neither owns nor controls the property. And last, it's likely that all the activities I've been mentioning will negatively impact the safety of the water produced by the well because the well is extremely shallow, less than 50 feet, which is very shallow for a public well. It was drilled in the notoriously porous sand and gravel soil that's characteristic of Lunenburg. Thus, in the absence of these Zone 1 protection areas that are mandated by the state regulations, any polluting substances generated by activities on all those properties are very likely to leach into the well. In summary, it would appear that the Lunenburg Water District does not own or control enough land around that well to create a Zone 1 protection area that would adequately protect the wellhead. Therefore, it is my opinion that the Hickory Hills well should not be eligible for state funding for a filtration facility. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Our next commenter will be Vinnie Furtado. Mr. Furtado, would you like to comment? Okay. We'll move on to Henry Renaud.
Good morning and thank you. I appreciate the time to be able to explain to the SRF our views on our application for funding. Unfortunately, we did not make this round under DWSRF ID 16692 for the Mattapoisett River Valley Treatment Facility. However, the district was able to secure emergency funding for $2.19 million under district ID number 16631 as of last year. However, without this additional funding to move this project forward from the SRF, this project could substantially be delayed due to the fact that although the district can legally engage in borrowing for funding, the district does not have financial capacity right now to secure private borrowing. Without SRF funding, this project has the potential to delay the project to the point of affecting the water quality for the residents of 4 communities. How, you might add? From my operating experience with the iron and manganese levels and rising in the removal of them and the failing filter system, the filters no longer are cleaning to their level of capacity. By no longer cleaning fully, it leaves areas on the filters that could potentially promote bacteria growth. The time is now to replace these filters before the communities experience another coliform or E. coli hit. We experienced a very bad one in 2021 with several level 2 assessments and boil orders throughout 4 communities. Our new design system is ready to move forward with enhanced pilot studies on a Coke Puron system for better filtration and removal of iron and manganese. With newer studies in environmental science and technology showing manganese as a driver to lead release in public water systems, this system could also help us lower our lead and copper results within the communities, especially with new school standards coming into effect. Along with full-log DEP certified UV protection, and to further enhance the removal of any bacteria for the MRV, will continue to bring clean and safe drinking water to our residents. The $5.5 million request that was not moved forward with a score of 429 points, we request that it be reviewed, and we will also be submitting written testimony to move forward with this project. We find that it's very important to not only all 4 of the communities, but to the district as well. And we ask that DEP please take another look at our project so that we could move forward and potentially have this filter system put in place. With already securing the $2.195 million and it's already procuring the filter system, it would be our request that DEP fulfills the second part of the acquisition of the $7.2 million to move forward with upgrading our filter plant. I thank you for your time on this matter and appreciate any help you can give us.
Thank you. I'll go back to Vinnie Furtado if you would like to speak. Okay. Barbara Kelleher, you would be the next commenter.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Good morning. I'm Barbara Kelleher, treasurer of Pine Valley Plantation Cooperative Mobile Home Community in Belchertown. This is our 3rd year applying for your funds to replace our deteriorating drinking water infrastructure. We are an over 55 community with a majority of residents over the age of 75, many with compromised immune systems. Our engineering plans have been complete for over 2 years at a cost of over $200,000, which our residents have paid for. We need to get this project underway before our water supply becomes endangered. As treasurer, I've done the math. Without your low interest loan, our people simply cannot afford this $6.2 million project. However, with your 1.5% interest, we can, without forcing a large number of senior citizens to leave their affordable housing. We urge you to reconsider our position below the funding line for your 2024 funding. And I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to provide written or, verbal Vinny has just put a comment in the chat that he is unable to give his comments because we can't hear him. I'm sorry about that. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Okay.
For the person that was having issues with the audio, would it be possible to call us by phone? If we cannot connect you to the oral testimony, please send me an email with your written testimony, and we will evaluate it as part of this public comment process. Okay, well.
Okay, I don't see anyone else who has either raised their hand or made a request in the chat box.
Do we wait a couple more minutes or are we done? Okay, I thank you all who testified today, as well as those who have attended this hearing without testifying. All the testimony that we heard at this hearing and also the written testimony received by 5 p.m. today will be considered by MassDEP before the intended use plans are finalized. The final intended use plans will be posted on MassDEP's website. If there are no further testimony, I hereby close this virtual public hearing at 10:47 a.m. on Wednesday, January 31st, 2024. And now the recording stops. Thank you.